Let's go! Where's the fucking line? Come on! Yes! Yes! Yes!
Well, that's a video of our friend Murphy, who all week has been pounding the drum on Just FYI. That was him cheering his horse home all the way to, I don't know, he had a couple of big doubles in and out, I think, and had some nice win money on that, so congratulations to him. Caleb, I want to congratulate ourselves. Mark isn't here. Yeah, looks like that 7, that figure was fake, huh?
Super fake. Super fake, and the horse just didn't really seem to handle the distance, which, you know, who knew? But being by some mare that nobody knows, it was pretty hard to predict whether or not she would handle the distance.
I told you, nobody knows who the heck that mare was. Harry Hernandez, who Biscolder or whatever by Harry Hernandez. I mean, whatever. You know, no one knows who the heck that horse is. Andrew, what's up?
You guys are very, very strange. I'm just going to throw that out there. And Caleb being handsome only covers about 20% of that.
You probably missed it last night. There was a very long discussion about Josh not knowing who Beholder was. So
I am not surprised. Anything that is at all good, great, or heroic, Josh has no knowledge of. Incidentally, hi, everybody. How's it going? I am not usually on these streams, but it's Breeders' Cup. Today's a fairly big day for me, so, you know, hop on, talk some Saturday with the boys, and hopefully be able to see some of you in chat as messages wind up coming through.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. You know, there was a group ticket I was running, and we went 4 out of 5. Unfortunately, luckily, you know, we decided to take 25% of the bankroll, use it today, so we still have 75% of it for tomorrow. Gonna attack the pick 6, gonna attack the turf pick 4, so I think there's some opportunity in that tomorrow. Yeah, that pick 5 paid absolutely bananas for basically only one horse. I think was very, very hard to get to.
Well, I imagine a lot of people that played that were singling Tamara and spreading elsewhere, which, given the prices involved, yeah, I get that and I get the logic. But the second they turned for home, you knew Tamara was a one-turn horse. That horse is going to clean up in races like the Test, in races like the La Brea next year. That horse is going to be a 7-furlong monster. 2 turns, it's a little early to say being her 3rd career start, but at least today it seemed like they turned a second time and she went, what? What is this?
Well, I mean, any horse that's got Harry Hernandez on the bottom, I mean, you know, I don't think they're going to get 2 turns.
Just a big long pour.
So here's the thing, and I am going to give our viewers out there a present, a bonus, if you will, an insight into the minds of content creators. If you give attention whores attention, they win. The way that you defeat an attention whore is by giving them no attention. Do you guys know the reason why I have been harping about Lord Miles for 7 months on end at 59-1? It is because nobody gets that. The people that I get into the heads of, just by bringing that up, keep it going and keep it refueled. Trust me, guys. Don't make it easy.
I'm about to just fire FIFA back up and just start playing that again.
That's okay. Caleb and I can talk. We know who the holder was.
He's got a point.
Oh man,
that is what we call a callback.
I mean, you're calling back to. I mean, you're calling collect at this point because you just keep on calling home for a ride with that Lord Miles.
Hey,
You know, we had a baby eats boy, right?
what a great commercial that was.
But yeah, no, today was I don't know. I thought it was fairly, like I said, we had the one surprise. I guess maybe the bigger kind of news coming out of today was the just multiple scratchings of Aiden O'Brien horses, and it does not sound like he is happy.
I don't think he is. I wouldn't be. If you ship a horse 10,000 miles, you do so with the expectation they're going to run and that they're healthy. I don't know the full story. I don't think anybody does. But if I was Aiden O'Brien, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Yeah, a bit of a rough look that he was very unhappy about the vet scratches, and then his horse and not the winner, but the horse that ran second of his ends up getting vanned off with a fracture. So not a tough look, but it's a tough situation.
Got the old Condoleezza fracture. Did George Bush in? No. Okay. George Washington, wasn't that a horse?
You don't want to bring up George Washington around Breeders' Cup time, especially when we're talking about breakdowns, Josh.
That's really bad. I have no idea. I just know that was a horse. You see, this is why I don't talk about anything before 2018.
Caleb, do you want to launch into talking about the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, or should I?
Why don't you kick us off?
Well, that's a really good lead-in because I have the most popular stance among you guys and probably the least popular stance in general for the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And that is, I think Cody's Wish gets beat. I think the 2 turns is not necessarily what he wants to do. I think going 1 turn, he is a super horse. Going 2 turns, he's just very good. Very good might win this race, but you should not bet very good at 4-5 in the Breeders' Cup. If he runs the race he ran last year in the Dirt Mile, maybe he wins, but I don't think he's a cinch. Josh has I think this horse might be sitting on go and may have enough early speed to get his ideal trip on or near the lead in a race that doesn't have a ton of early speed. Guys, am I crazy?
I don't know what Dale Romans has to do with this, but yeah, I like National Treasure a bit. Yeah, man, Andrew, you just like keep the straight face, just drink your Coke, don't care.
It's Coke Zero, by the way. Makes it
okay.
easier to go down.
I did see that since Andrew and hey, that led in great because I did see Nick Feldman is on some Old Forester 1920 tonight, which I know Caleb hates. Caleb hates all things Old Forester because I don't know, he just doesn't have taste apparently. But Caleb, what did you bring the bottle in?
I brought the scotch in tonight.
Yeah, what do you got there?
I got a Talisker 10.
Okay, a little something,
After
a little
my
smoky.
BC Friday, it's all I can afford.
Yeah, well, in a similar vein, I have Wild Turkey 101 because that's all I deserve. That's all I deserve.
You must have had
tonight.
a worse day than I did.
Yeah, that's all I deserve today. After, yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, no, Andrew, completely with you on those 2 horses. I think Zozos is coming in here in top form. I don't know if his best as of yet is still good enough to win in this race. So I think you are going to have to move forward, but you're talking about a horse 3rd off the layoff who's been working very well and who seems to have, like you said, start rounding into top shape. Late season 4-year-old tends to be right around when we see these dirt horses kind of reach their peak. So I thought Zozos could take a little bit of a step forward to win in this race. Another horse I was actually interested in is a 6, Skippy Longstocking here for the aforementioned Safi Joseph Jr. Of Lord Miles fame. Coming off a win at the Charlestown Classic, which is like a 7-turn, a mile and an eighth, I believe. But has run some nice races. That Cornhusker Fig on Brisnet is very, very good here. And Yeah, I think that this horse is going to appreciate the little bit of a cutback here because it hasn't seemed like Exaggerator has really been a huge stamina influence to start off his breeding career. So I do think that a little bit of a cutback going to a mile might actually even help this horse. So um, I think this horse is fast enough. Has got some tactical speed, and I really like him here in this spot at a pretty decent price at 12 to 1. So I got Zozos, I have Skippy Longstocking, and I have National Treasure in this race.
Yeah, I think Cody's Wish wins this race. I get where you guys are going as far as this whole 2-turn scenario, but he won this race last year at 2 turns. This is not a great field. I mean, it's mostly a grade 3 dressed up as a grade 1 in here, and there's just, I don't know. I mean, National Treasure has looked like trash in his last couple of starts. I mean, he's fine. He might be controlling speed, but it's just he's a tough horse for me to really like. Zozos, I can never seem to really figure out when he's going to show up. But yeah, I just think Cody's Wish is too good. Even if he runs back to what he did last year, or essentially any race he's run this year, with the exception of the Whitney, he wins. I think going on for a long at Saratoga, in the is quite a bit different than going 1 mile 2 turns somewhere here where I think he might be able to handle it. He might not, and I respect taking a shot against, but I have no idea who I would use if I was going to try to beat him. Actually, the horse that I was maybe a little interested in was actually the number 7 Algiers, who's shipping in from Dubai after prepping at Woodbine. So that might be one of the ones I'd look to a little bit, but in general, I do think this is certainly Cody's Wish's race to lose, and I'm not really going to try to beat him.
Algiers is scratched.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Man, I can't.
Yeah, he scratched earlier in the week. So that was my big key actually in this race. Was I thought Algiers was going to be the one to win this race. But Andrew, I have a question for you. When is Caleb getting on the stream? Because I just see Mark Capitan apparently is sitting in that second seat. So I don't know.
Well, no. In this particular instance, no, he's not, because Caleb didn't try to talk us into charge it.
That is so true.
That's very true. That's very true.
To everybody that is playing Mark Capitan in the BCBC, if Charge It wins, you all lose.
Yeah. I will say what adds to the kind of confusion for this race is looking at the optics plot for this race. I mean, I don't know if I've seen just a worse plot for just any race in general that has so many horses that have this many starts, right? This isn't a maiden race. This isn't lightly raced 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds. These are grade 1, grade 2 type horses that have run a ton. And this is the plot we get, which apparently is just flipped on its axis the complete other way. And honestly, you see Cody's Wish as a Q2 square up there, but I mean, those are kind of horses I like to bet in situations where maybe you get a little bit of pace up front. But I don't know, man. It just he doesn't plot out well, but it could just be the fact that the rest of this race looks kind of weird. I will say Optics did make a note on the 8 Cheryl's B, who I've heard a couple other people talk about a little bit, to basically just completely throw out that last race, that it was a prep. The horse, they basically wrapped the horse up really early after they realized there was no shot, and is coming in off of a B race at Meydan where he finished second. So this might be a horse that maybe if you're playing in the tournament or you're looking for a bomb, looking for an alternative, that might be one that you could take a look at. I mean, it's a big old square, but it's only taking into account the one race here in the U.S. So no, big old circle, sorry. But
the horses should be 60 to 1 in this field.
I completely agree with Caleb. If you're looking for a bomb, honestly, and make no mistake, I don't particularly like this horse but I've seen far worse bombs than Stage Raider, who certainly seems to have come around since switching barns earlier this year because, clearly Chad Brown can't train. So let's send this horse to Cherie DeVoe. And all of a sudden, this horse wins a stakes race at Ellis, runs a decent second in the ACAC. This horse, I'm not personally a fan of, but if you look on the board and you're looking for a bomb and you see that this horse is 30-1, I could at least see some sort of logic there. But again, not a horse that I would ever play. Just prefer others in that particular spot, because if you like Stage Raider, don't you also have to like Zozos, who beat the horse last time out? I'm sorry. If the 8 wins, I lose everything that I play here. I cannot possibly see Shirl's B coming in off of a 6th beaten 17 1/4 lengths last time out, in a race won by Slit Mahoney, who I don't know if he's still a head case, but this past summer was a head case. You look at the races in Maidan, they weren't particularly great here. I get what you're trying to do, and I see the logic behind it, but no, just not no.
Stage Raiders, would it be half nephews? Seemed to do pretty well on Friday, huh?
Yeah, his half brother wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
Anything else in this race? I mean, we didn't talk about Charge It, but we don't need to talk about Charge It. So.
No, we don't. We don't talk about Charge It, much like in the Disney movie where they don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Charge It.
All right. Anything else here?
I'm singling Cody's Wish and moving on, or skipping the race.
I will say, I think that is the right thing to do. I saw someone up here. Let me take a look at chat. Well, a couple things. One, Uncle Sully saying Dreamfire needed more cocaine today. Front runners and American Turf horses were destroyed. Yeah, Nick Feldman mentioning that can't really blame anyone for scratching extra horses based on the last year we've had with national TV collapses. But yeah, I saw someone here say, here's Nick Feldman saying that he thinks this is a skip. I'm not really interested in playing the early because of this race. So I probably won't have anything in here. Road Warrior also thinks that this is a skip. Nick Sievers is talking himself into Zozos, so he thinks that means Cody's Wish wins. Charles B likes Skippy and Treasure in an exacta. And Nick Feldman saying that if Sherry would have called one of the big boys for Stage Raider, he's probably 8-1, not 15-1. I don't know, maybe. But we saw a couple of IRAD no hopers didn't really take much money today, like maybe we thought. So, but let's move on. We got a lot of races to cover here. Race 4, the Maker's Mark Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf Maker's Mark. I'm sorry, I'm drinking Wild Turkey. If you would like to send me a bottle of Maker's Mark, I would gladly drink it on stream.
Sponsorship opportunities are open, by the way. If interested, talk to our sales manager, Josh Rodriguez.
But we're going a mile and a quarter here, down the little turf chute. And then, I think your favorite is at 7-2 or 5-2, excuse me, in Spiral here. Ship it in from overseas. You got Warm Heart at 3-1, and then you get the Americans at 4-1, 8-1, and 8-1 in Italian Didia Fevrover. But Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I do think that Inspiral is the horse to beat. So maybe I am kind of channeling my inner Mark Capitan, going chalk to kick things off. But you got to sort of take with what the race gives you. I don't think she's a cinch in the way that, I think Cody's Wish is going to be awful tough to beat, simply because she's been campaigned almost exclusively as a miler, and now they're trying to stretch her out to 1.25 miles. That is an unknown, right? We don't know how she's going to handle the stretch out. Typically, these Europeans have plenty of stamina, so I'm not overly concerned about it. Also, the fact that, Godson spots his horses quite well. He could have entered her into the Breeders' Cup Mile if he wanted to. Instead, he elects a runner here, so that says a lot to me about the confidence he has in her seeing this distance out. I think she'd be a player in the mile as well if she decided to go there. But regardless, she is here. I think she's going to be very tough to beat. She loves firmer ground, so she actually was scheduled to run on Cupco Champions Day at Ascot. Ended up scratching out of that to run here instead. So I think the firm ground is going to really be to her liking. So I do really think she's the one to beat. I will use a couple of other sort of like B types because I don't think she's a stone cold single by any stretch. But I do think she is a deserving favorite and definitely the European that I'm the most interested in. I much prefer her to the number 2 Warm Heart.
Andrew?
So Caleb and I agree on your main horse. That's Inspiral. The mile to a mile and a quarter stretch out is a mild concern for me. But you look at the DRF past performances and you see time form ratings in the low 120s. That translates to a buyer speed figure of in the mid hundreds to upper like 105, 108, that range. I think Inspiral is going to be very tough in here for a couple of different reasons, not the least of which is you never, ever, 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 ever bet against a Frankie Dettori ridden horse when that horse is taking significant money. That guy is as good a turf rider as there is in the world and has been for a very long time. Having said that, I do think there is some value because, like Caleb, I'm against Warm Heart in this race. She's a very nice 3-year-old, but I just don't think is quite as developed as some of the other runners in this particular spot. One of the Euros, and I use Euro with an asterisk because we've seen a lot of her here, is number 3 with the Moonlight. Guys, Charlie Appleby and William Buick come over. They have won everything, and I mean everything that they send out here. And you're telling me we're going to get 20-1? Don't you have to at least use this horse in some form or fashion, especially when... Josh, I'm rolling here, okay? Can whoever's running the soundboard take a break for a moment? You see a horse that's second off the layoff. I like the fact that this horse's form, I think, got darkened a little bit last time out. First time off the long break, moved early. William Buick doesn't want many rides back. I think he wants that one back. You look at with the Moonlight's North American record, you see 5 starts and she's never been out of the exacta. Is she good enough to win? I don't necessarily think so, but if you're playing exactas and tries, I want her on the ticket. And the other one that I'm using, and I see Nick Sievers has a comment in there. Can we pull that one up from just a couple minutes ago, please? Yes, number 9, Didia. The figures don't look outstanding, but this is a horse that's 5 for 6 in North America, has a local win, and is 3 for 4 with a second going a mile and a quarter. This is her desired route of ground, and we're going to get a little bit of a price on that one. For me, 6 with 3-9 in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. I respect Inspiral. I think she is a lone A, and I do think there are ways in which you can get value out of that runner.
You know, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I have Inspiral as a lone A. But, you know, Andrew, I'm reminded of something that you always remind me, and I think it was the great actor Gregory Peck who said, never take a short price on a horse doing something for the first time.
Caleb, can you arrange for someone to just, like, smack him really, really, really hard?
And then I believe...
Look, I understand if we're besmirching Beholder as a gimmick. I understand if we're besmirching anything that happened before 2018 as a gimmick. But we do not besmirch Harvey Pack in this dojo.
Man, I had some To Kill a Mockingbird stuff ready to go for all this, but okay. Okay, I guess that was too much shtick for Mr. Gimmick over here. So
yes, that was too much shtick for the guy that had Lord Miles in the Wood Memorial at 59-1, and it paid $120.30. That one's your fault.
Yeah, so I was AC here with a couple of C's, and the C's I took were all American horses. You already talked about Didia, and hard to see that she's really done much wrong. I am a little concerned because it does seem to be a little bit slow. Caleb, and Caleb, I know you've done some extensive research, and you got some great feedback about about how these time form figures convert, and I'm sure you'll save that for a later time for us. But I also kind of like the 7 Lindy and the 8 Fev Rover in this spot. Now the 8 Fev Rover beat your aforementioned With the Moonlight last time out. Like you said, maybe William Buick moved a little too early there, and just kind of gave JJ the big the setup there. And luckily Mark's not here because we might have to have the JJ Simp alert blaring at full blast, because I'm sure he's all over Fev Rover because he's a big.
So here's a question for you though, Josh, on
Mhm.
Fev Rover, I believe it is. Doesn't she need the lead, and isn't she considerably slower than an Italian?
I mean, she is, but I don't know necessarily if she needs lead. I mean, she got passed. She ended up third by a neck there, and was able to kind of fight back. So I think as long as she stays close, she should be fine. But to your point, yes, the times that she's been taken very far back, she's not ran well, including that Canadian 2 back where she lost to a synthetic horse in Moira, which is just embarrassing for everybody, I guess, involved. But yeah, but that's also why I have her as a C. We're gonna try and take a stab here. Obviously, like you said, Didia as well, and then the 7 Lindy. Um, we've talked a little bit about the race at Keeneland on October 14th, where Maj kind of had it all her own way on the front, and won without just like getting pressed by anybody, and it just seemed like just got. Oh, actually, I have an alert for this one. I forgot. Had, I believe, what we call a candy ass trip. So yeah, I think you kind of upgrade that close by Lindy that last time out, and you kind of upgrade that last race a little bit, and I don't know, it just makes a little bit more sense if an Italian's not able to hold out there on the front end the entire time. I think a horse like Lindy makes a bit of sense there coming from off the pace. Didia makes some sense coming from off the pace, but they all have to improve, and they all have to run their eyeballs out, and Inspiril might need to not show up in order for that to happen. So I think they're all chasing him for or her, excuse me, for second place in this race. So
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add is the horses that I kind of liked underneath are ones you already talked about. I do like. I agree with Andrew about With the Moonlight. I don't know that she can win, but she shouldn't be 20-1 in that field. And I sort of think that maybe, I mean, she hates soft turf. You can throw those 2 bad races out. Otherwise, she's consistent. The Appleby Godolphin Dominance Tour went on break this year compared to last year, but she fits to an extent. I mean, she was much wider than Fevre and Moira in that EP Taylor race last out. So she does fit. She gets this trip. So she'll be a ticket, maybe like a C for me, maybe B or C, along with the number 8, Fevre, however we want to say it. I'm not convinced she's a need the lead type. I think she's a nice horse. So those are kind of the 2. And then Lindy, B, the horse Josh just mentioned, or Lindy, yeah. Those are the exact horses that I'm going to use behind Inspiral, but Inspiral will be a low A for me. And I guess we probably have to talk about an Italian a little bit, right? If you're just going off numbers, she's the horse to beat. Well, her and Inspiral anyway, depending on how you choose to treat the European figs. But I think it's fairly clear she can't see out this distance. But I'm curious, I mean, is that just kind of the general consensus? This is too far?
And I also don't think she's going to have it easy making the lead. The rail going down that little downhill can be either good or bad. If she goes out and goes 24-48, we're all going to look like morons. But I don't think that's going to happen. I also think there's a chance that maybe we saw the best of an Italian last year going into this year. She did not have any excuses in either of her last 2 outings, and she got beat by 2 horses that I don't think would have beaten the Italian of a year ago. If she beats me, she beats me, and I'll tip my cap to what's a very nice mare, but I just can't really get there with her on top. I see Trisha's comment down there at the bottom of the screen about Win Maryland. If Win Maryland was the horse that she was last year when she won the Hong Kong Vase, a very prestigious race, and ran well in a couple of other big races in Japan, I think she'd have a pretty big shot. But I see the last couple of races, and it just seems like she's a step slower as a 6-year-old. Would I be shocked if this horse ran well? I don't think you'd be shocked with any Japanese horse all day long, given how much recent success they have had. I prefer others in this particular spot. I thought this race actually came up significantly tougher than maybe we thought it was going to a couple of weeks ago.
Wait, Andrew, are you saying?
No. No.
He just wants to be a mom.
No. No,
Josh
I'm
is getting his
not.
money's worth out of that.
I'm
sound.
getting my
No,
money's
I'm-
worth out of the sound
I'm-
today. Yeah.
I'm very curious how many alerts we're going to see on this program. Does anybody have a running over-under out there?
No. I took a look at Win Maryland, but I kind of agree with you, Andrew. I just think horses coming way off form. And, maybe if she had at least one good race this year where you could point, and like, the Shima Classic, I mean, lost to Equinox, right? Like, and finished 6th in that race. But just hasn't really come back to run anything good as of this year. So, yeah, not going to be for me in this spot. Anything else in this race?
I mean, I think we talked about most of the field.
Okay. Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. We're all singling Society and moving on, right?
She's an A for me.
I got a spicy take in this race.
Oh, baby.
Josh and I think, share a spicy take, which I got to tell you is not a feeling we're used to having.
Yeah, this race. What is your spicy take? Let's go there first.
So mine is 2 parts. One, I really don't like Goodnight Olive. I think the rail draw does her absolutely no favors. I think she's going to be left with way too much to do. And we know that she doesn't particularly like that sort of trip. I know she had an absolutely horrible ride in the Derby City Distaff a couple of starts back, but I think she gets a similar kind of trip in this particular spot. And that makes the morning line price a significant underlay. The second part of my wild, wacky theory that Josh and I actually had a post-show meeting about the other day, we think Kirsten Bosch is not without a shot in here. Given that there is a lot of early speed signed on. I mean, clearly Unhinged is going to go. Eat is going to go. Mataray is not going to be too far off of it. Society, we know, is a rocket ship. Ugiri's going to go. There's going to be a lot of speed signed on. Is Society the best horse? I think so. Is she drawn favorably? Yes, she is. But I do think there's meltdown potential here. And the horse that would benefit the most from such a meltdown is horse number 5 in the program, who comes in off of a win in a local prep race over a couple of these horses.
So I like where your head's at, because that kind of aligns with my spicy take. I'm just going to double down. In this race, when I'm playing pick 5s or whatever I end up doing, I'm going to use the whole field except for Goodnight Olive and Society. Throwing them both out completely. I hate the draw for Goodnight Olive. I don't think she likes to be inside of horses like that. And I also think that she ran a screaming fig last time out, and I think she moves backwards off of that. I think that was a monstrous top, and I think she's likely to go backwards. She should win based on what she does, but I don't think she runs back to that, and I think she's going to get way overbet. Society, this is just a horse that I think there's a lot of reasons to be skeptical. If you look at where she's really posted her big figures and where she's earned her money, Charlestown, a very speed-biased Ellis Park over the summer, Parks, and then Charlestown again. I just, when you look at where she's kind of stepped up at more traditional venues, Keeneland, Churchill, Saratoga, she's finished up the track. And I just don't think that she's inconsistent or she's taking advantage of some fairly soft spots, but she's not one for me. I think that some of those figures are highly suspect. I think she's had some candy ash trips in her last 2 starts, everything to herself on the front end, and I don't like her in here. So with that being said, I think this race is wide open past those front 2. I don't want to be right about Goodnight Olive and Society and then not have the winner. So I will have a structured play with essentially everybody else in here. If I had to go for like top selections, I'd probably go 2, 4, 5. I do agree with you guys that Kirsten Bosch is in here with a shot. Seems to be improving, sort of is that closer that I think you want in a race like this. 7 furlong seems like it ought to be perfect for her. So I do like her in this race. I agree with you, Andrew. The number 2 is probably my top pick, actually, Clearly Unhinged. I'm not sure why she's 12 to 1 in the morning line. When she ran the test, and we all know what happened in the test, but was nevertheless beaten ahead by Pretty Mischievous and had a little bit of trouble in that race too, where she clipped heels. So that's a good race. Came back and tried new tactics, kind of pressing the pace, and the race kind of came apart, and she ended up getting passed by Kirsten Bosch, but she was able to put away Ida, who is in here with a shot and will likely take some money as well. So I think Clearly Unhinged is kind of flying under the radar. I'll be against Goodnight Olive and Society, but I'll probably have all of them on some form or fashion.
Welcome, Mr.
My
Mark
God, that's Mark
Capitan.
Capitan's music. What's he doing here?
Wait, I have music? What the hell?
I just started going through the music library I have and trying to find something.
And I had no idea that was coming. I thought we had entered some sort of trap party that we're all way too
Twilight
old to
Zone
be
sort
at.
of thing or something. Yeah, I didn't know what that was. I was sitting here quickly trying to adjust myself and get myself sorted here, and I was wondering what that was.
Did you just hang on? Did you just try to adjust your hair when you don't have any?
I said adjust myself. I was.
No, you were like, I was trying to adjust myself. I'm just saying, man.
Unfortunately for Mark, now that Andrew and I are both on the stream with him, he no longer catches strays. He just catches direct shots, just right to the chest, just double barrels right there. But what's up, Mark? How you doing? How far are you staying from Santa Anita?
I'm over. Well, it was just California traffic. I made it to the track this morning in 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And it was more like 45 getting back from the track, just given traffic. There was an accident, yada, yada. Normal California stuff. So yeah.
Cool.
But no, good. It was a good day. Breeders' Cup was a lot of fun today. I was sort of shocked at how quiet it was in general. It seemed as though at most maybe half full in the stands at any one time. It never felt busy. Now, if you walk down to the paddock area or you walk to some of the more common areas, there's definitely a lot of people standing around and things. So maybe there's just people out of their seats, but it wasn't crazy busy. And I think it was one of those days where I think I handicapped well, but I didn't play well. I had all kind of almost every winner somewhere in my plays, and I wasn't crazy deep. Just I wasn't structuring tickets in a way which was really connecting. So got all my Mandos in. A lot of work to do tomorrow. I think the leader is at $60,000 or something like that right now. So yeah, and also the leader is both in first and second. I think his second place ticket is 43,000. So a lot of work to do for tomorrow, but definitely some good races to fire at and try to chase them down.
Cool. Yeah, that's and then I see Nick Sievers. He said 62K. I saw one of Nick Sievers' buddies, Ronald Tang, I think, is also doing pretty well. I saw his name pretty high on the leaderboard earlier. I did a stream with him and Nick once, and real nice guy. So
yeah, okay, it is. Leader is 62,051 right now, and that's Dylan Donnelly, who's won this before. He's also in second place at 45,844, and then third place is there's a number of people who are in those. There's 11 people above 20,000, so pretty good. Got my work cut out for me, but. Honestly, today I was, in the short priced filly early on. I know Murphy was all over the 12. That was I was started debating, what way do I go? It was one of those, if I go that way, and about a flared nostril in the turf race, and I'm sitting at probably 15K. So it's just one of those days where, a little racing luck. I think I handicapped well and my approach was good. Just didn't quite connect.
Well, if you would have listened to Caleb and I yesterday, you wouldn't have used that short price horse in that that one race. But
Tomorrow.
You know, I think that there was some intention there of you know, fade the horse that both Josh and Caleb love, and you know, try to go some other direction.
I've got a quick question for you before we move on. Josh, can you pull up our buddy Road Warrior's comment from a couple minutes ago about Breeders' Cup ticket prices? Because I noticed this a little bit watching the NBC feed today. It looked like there were way more people in the paddock than outside the paddock looking at the horses. And that's just bizarre to me. It certainly seems... And look, I know it's a Friday. I know that tomorrow there's probably going to be way more in the way of fans there because, hey, people work on Fridays. But I'm looking and I'm seeing so many people inside the paddock and nobody outside of it. And man, that's weird. If that's not an accurate juxtaposition of racing's priorities, I don't know what is.
I'll tell you what, if I would somewhat disagree with you, Andrew. I think there's a set of stairs that goes down towards the paddock area.
Yeah.
If you went down that set of stairs and went anywhere from there to the sections around the paddock, you could not move.
Okay,
now, there
that's
was
good
one
to hear.
section. Yeah, you could not move. It was very. I had Stephanie, who's a Discord person, with me, and I was actually having to push through people to get us through. But you know, it never felt crazy busy, and I think part of what you were seeing on the cameras was there was a section. If you look at the paddock from the grandstands on the left, sort of behind the path where they walk out to the track, that was a VIP section. And I think sometimes it may have looked like, oh, there's not a lot of people, because there weren't a lot of people in that VIP area because it was very hard to get to. We had access to it, but we never actually figured out how you get there. So I think that may have been part of it. You know, there was definitely, when you're down there around the paddock area, it was very hard to move. But again, you're walking down through the grandstands and you're looking up and down, and maybe half full, maybe. So. Okay. And I will say, my other Santa Anita beef, I've never been to Santa Anita, and not that I want to go on about this forever, but where they had the BCBC, there was two sections. One is you walk up that set of stairs and there's like a restaurant area there. They had BCBC people at both spots there. And then where I was up on the third floor at the top of the stretch. There's a couple of like big rooms that they could use for a venting space. We went up from up there, top of the stretch. It's a great view of the track, but you can't watch the races because there is no big screen in front of you. The main big screen is it's a tiny little big screen, and it's down by the finish line. And there's even no odds board. The odds board there is like impossible to read. It's this old like 1950s bulby, odds board that's really hard to read. So it's an interesting track in that it seems it has not very much been modernized. And if you, as somebody who enjoys watching horse racing, it's not the most friendly to watch races from, which is just kind of aggravating. Like we effectively would watch the races, horses would come by, and then we would sprint into the indoor area so we could watch the races finish on a TV, and it just was not the best viewing experience as somebody watching
them. Ticket prices are cheaper this year than they were at Keeneland last year.
Can we move on? We have a lot of races.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I'm going to need to keep the voice a little sharp so that I can do the late night thing for Trust the Profits later.
All right. Yeah. Let's move on from this race. Let's go on to the BC Mile. BC Mile. We're going to be going a mile here on the turf. Generally a race that shippers do very, very well at. But I think this year it doesn't seem like they have as strong of a hand as other years. I will say that the morning line favorite, the 10 Songline, does look like a monster in here at 5-2. But I don't think that he's or she's unbeatable. So I will be using others, but I do have Songline written as an A. Mark, since you just got here, where did you land here?
Yeah, I think Songline is going to be keep it quick. Songline's going to be very, 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 very tough in here. She at a mile is an extremely talented filly. She's 5'9", or sorry, mare. She's 5'9" lifetime going that trip. I don't see any reason. She has gone around corners. She seems to travel quite well. Has won at a bunch of different tracks. She's gone to Saudi Arabia as well. So she's definitely a horse that can ship without a problem. The only concern I have is just the jock not knowing the track. I think she's a if you wanted to get cute here, you could single A her. If you want to spread, there's a bunch of other interesting faces here, but I think she's just really tough in here. She's going to be really hard to get around.
I love it when Road Warrior just says what's on my mind. The other hay I have in this race is the 3 Casa Creed. I think of the Americans, this is probably your best shot. I mean, Casa Creed has been able to do it various distances, various tracks. I don't know. I really like Casa Creed in this spot. I mean, heck, ran second to Songline in the Turf Sprint Cup over in Saudi last year. And ran again second again this year, and just came back, lost the Caravel in the sprint, went back to the mile distance, won the Kelso, won the 4-star Dave. I don't know. I think that I think this is going to be a very real good spot, especially without there being multiple European monsters shipping in. I think Songline is going to be formidable and tough to beat, but I'm going to be using a ton of Casa Creed in this spot.
Hey, Josh, are you aware that Japan's not in Europe?
Well, whatever, same thing.
Okay.
And Mark's want to lecture about geography.
Yeah, I know, right? Next, he's gonna lecture me about my pronunciations too. So,
Yeah,
Caleb, where you at?
this was a tough race for me because it's one of those races where I'm not really against the favorites, but I do like some other horses as well. So it's a tough one because it feels like, do you really want to spread 3 and 4 deep and also include the top 2 or 3 choices? So I haven't decided how I'm going to structure any of my plays yet. So as far as just what I think about some of the horses, I respect Songline, but I'm probably not as high on her as I think a few other people are. I think she's formidable in here, to be sure. But I don't think I wouldn't want her at 8-5 or 7-5. I think 5-2 is probably about where I think is fair for her. And if she's much shorter than that, I don't think I would want it. I kind of agree with Josh on Casa Creed. You just gotta love the old man. He probably won't win, but he could. And if you believe hard enough, he could. So yeah, but a horse that I did like in here, probably even more so than Songline, to be honest, is the number 6 Modge. This 3-year-old filly has been on a tear lately, winning everything from Dubai to Newmarket and then over here domestically. So I think that, Candy Ash Strip, she won the 1,000 guineas, and you're going to hit her with the Candy Ash Strip alert. I mean, she beat Tahira, who last year looked like an absolute horse of the year. Tailed off a little bit this year. Maybe it wasn't quite the promising 3-year-old that we thought she may have been at 2, but nevertheless has really kept some very high quality company here. She doesn't need the lead. She has tactical speed. I think the cutback from 9 furlongs back to 8 makes a little more sense in here for her. That seems to be a little more in her wheelhouse. And I think she's going to be tough. And if you get 4-1, I think that's a fair price on Modge. I guess beyond that, there's a few others you can talk about, but we'll see where Andrew landed first.
Sure. So Songline to me makes a ton of sense. I'm not going to try to talk anybody off of her. If you think Songline is the classiest horse in the race, I'm not going to vehemently disagree with you, but I have a bone to pick with somebody on this panel. A couple of days ago, I sat down and I recorded Drank and Champagne, which is also available on the Wrong Lead platform. Josh, where did your guts go?
What? Which guts?
You spent all that time talking about Casa Creed this and Casa Creed that and da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. And you never once mentioned your live long shot of Saturday's entire card, that being Du Jour, who I also think is a pretty big shot. And the other one that I'm going to throw at you here if you like a 3-year-old filly in this race, why not take a little bit of a bigger price with Kalina, who beat a very nice horse in Kinross last time out in a Group 1 at Longchamp, and whose 3-back clunker you can easily throw out because that was over very soft going. I don't think the 2-back race was all that bad, especially considering how Big Rock came back and looked like a world beater in his very next start. I think Kalina's got a shot to potentially hit the board at a nice number 2. Songline hits me as the most likely winner. Give me a little bit of 8 and 11 underneath at a bit of a price.
Yeah, just real quick. I do love Kalina in there as well, Andrew. Finally got firm turf last time. Freaked. Yeah, I'm with you completely.
Yeah, I was going to say one more horse again, real quick, because I know you were trying to move along. The 2, Gina Romanica. I don't know what you make of that last figure. Either they figured something out and she's taken a big step forward. If she fires back to that Keeneland race, she's an absolutely massive player in here, and she should get the pace to run into that she did in that Keeneland race as well. So I think Gina Romanica at that sort of 12-1 line. We've already seen the Chad Brown Barnes firing, so she's never been out of the exact to go in this trip.
Caleb, what was your exact quote earlier this morning?
Which one?
Something about Chad Brown, 12-1.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to spend 2 hours handicapping this race and go 5 deep, and then feel like an idiot when the obvious Chad Brown horse wins at 6 or 8-1, and I didn't have it. And it's exactly what happened. It was 9-1, Caleb. 9-1. Yeah, and the juvenile fillies. Exactly what happened. But this one I wouldn't say is obvious. I mean, that was a wide open race. There's some legit horses in here, and Gina Romanica, that last race is kind of a flash in the pan. I think I need to see her run back to that before I really feel comfortable using her prominently. But if you are going to get 12-1, then that definitely covers a lot of the risk.
Yeah, agreed. And my thought is always just Chad been running her a little bit longer than she wants to go for a long time. Yeah. You get the right price to pay to find out.
Did any of you guys give Exalted a look at all? I know West Coast turf horse, but
no. Not for me.
No, I had it written.
Probably my 8th or 9th.
I had it written down as a C. Is 4 for 4 at Santa Anita, going a mile on the turf. Obviously ran second, but that was also at Del Mar. So I don't know. It was just kind of a horse for course type of angle here. Once again, is going to have to take a step forward, I think, and is in much tougher. 20-1 might be a horse I would use underneath as a C type, maybe a tournament type play. But yeah, I think you guys basically touched on all the horses that I would like to talk about. Anything else in that race?
Just one comment. I think Cheryl Spite hits the board. She can't win the race, but I think she's a great horse to key underneath your trifecta.
She shows up for all these big races.
Gets no respect, but she's coming in with almost the same form cycle that she has so many times before. And I really think she's going to show up and maybe get 3rd or 4th at a nice price.
If she would have ran second to Modern Games 1 year earlier, she would have won that race.
Hit the boo button right now. Hit it right now. Boo yourself. Boo yourself for that.
Nope, absolutely not.
That was terrible.
Exalted Scratch, cool. All right, I don't have to worry about that. Cheryl Spite was another horse that I was interested in, so I'm going to write C down there. And actually, we haven't really pulled the plot up much, but this is the Filly Mare's Turf. Filly Mare Sprint, and here's the turf. Cheryl Spite is this huge ass square right in the middle of the plot, and going a mile. Those early route, those shorter route type races. That's a great spot to be. Gina Romantica plots out really, really well in here as well. Mind you, we don't have the European horses in here that don't have a start here in the U.S. at all, but. Yeah, I agree with you, Caleb. This is exactly the similar form cycle that Cheryl Spite kind of came into coming into this year. And interesting to note, something I talked with Emily Gullickson about with this race. If you notice, and we didn't even talk about the 14, but a lot of these horses that are coming in here have red words on them. They got some kind of easy trip, tactic plus, easy lead. So something that you might want to keep an eye out for. we've used the candy ass trip alert a couple of times already. However, it's something that to definitely take note of. I think coming into this race, the Breeders' Cup Distaff race 7 here, going a mile and an eighth on the dirt. Why are you shaking your head? Why is your head in your hands already?
Because Pretty Mischievous was going to make me a wheelbarrow full of cash.
She scratched, right?
Yeah, is it official? Is it official that she scratched? I hadn't seen anything official, but it was rumor mill.
Yeah, she's out, and I'm going to hold up my 50 pages of printed past performances here. If you can see on the bottom there, just the word UGG in very big letters. Pretty Mischievous scratching significantly ruins the appeal of this race for me, not the least of which because I agree with Josh now.
Yep, this is a one-horse race, guys. This is the singles, my best bet of the day. Everything's going through this, and unfortunately, it seems like looking at the double probables, everybody agrees with me. The 9 Clairiere Stone Cold Single A. I don't need any other horses in this race.
And we agree, Josh. I mean, if you think this race melts down, there are only a couple of likely beneficiaries of that. Clairiere is chief among them. Maybe you think Wet Pain is going to get the ideal come from out of the clouds trip. Honestly, it would not surprise me if either the 10 or the 11 at ridiculous prices came on for a piece of it. But the more you look at this race, it just screams meltdown to me. And the only horse with some early speed that intrigues me at all is Search Results. But if she was going to get a mile and an eighth, wouldn't it have been before now?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
And I mean, there were a couple of races, Caleb, last year where I think you and I were both on Search Results going this mile and the eighth distance. I think we were like, like maybe this is it, right? Like this is going to be it, and just. It might have been the personal ensigns in specific that I'm thinking of, but
she looks like a winner turning for home in every single race that she runs, and then just hits the wall in the last 16. So yeah, I don't think she can see out the mile and an eighth.
Well, Nick Feldman says if Malathot didn't exist, Search Results would be known as a beast.
I mean, the thing with Search Results is she always fires a really big shot. She's an easy horse to root for, and she's probably a really nice horse to own. I mean, 15 in the money finishes and 16 lifetime starts, earnings of $1.9 million. If the pace melts down, I think she's your leader turning for home. The question is she going to have enough left after chasing that kind of pace to be able to hold off any of the closers that come a-calling?
Sixer thinks maybe the Santa Anita track can carry Search Results home.
Can I point something out really quick in relation to that? So the last time Santa Anita had the Breeders' Cup was in the year 2019. I'm not using today's Breeders' Cup races because, look, we had 2 dirt races for 2-year-olds. The sample size just isn't there. The last time Santa Anita had a Breeders' Cup, there were 7 dirt races. 2 of them were won in wire-to-wire fashion. 3 were won by stalkers or pressing types. 2 of them were won by deep closers. That's about as fair a track as you're going to get. And I know Santa Anita has a reputation as a parking lot because for a while it was a parking lot. See also Golden Sense going back-to-back in the dirt mile just by running 44 and change half miles and leaving everybody in the dust. It's not the same track. So if you think Santa Anita is going to be a parking lot, I'd caution you, at least at this point. I get the thinking, maybe because it was in the past for big events. I think it's a significantly different track now, guys.
Yeah,
I agree.
In watching the races, I would say in watching the races today, the track played fair, very fair on both surfaces. I think you'd have a hard time trying to imply there was some sort of pronounced bias watching any surface today.
All right. Well, who do you like your mark?
Yeah, I'm going to be super uncreative and eat some chalk. I think Idiomatic or Randomized are the 2 horses that I'm most interested in. I understand you guys saying that you think there's going to be a ton of pace and this is set up for a pace meltdown. I'm not as convinced. Idiomatic has passed horses in the past. She does not desperately need the lead. And I don't know if randomized being on the lead in every race is a she desperately needs the lead, or is it she's just always been fast and has inherited the lead? So I think those are my two most likely players. Both of them love this trip. Both of them seem to be in extremely good form. I know you guys are playing this melts down, but just because this race has melted down years in the past doesn't necessarily mean it melts down today. I think we're all kind of having flashbacks to one year where it melts down and a Japanese horse blows the board up. I don't think that necessarily has to happen here. And I think you have two logical horses who are in very good form. And I get your argument. I just don't necessarily buy into it.
Well, don't worry, I buy into it, Josh. I think this melts. I agree with you. And I think Clarier is a single. I agree with you there as well. And it's funny because I kind of laughed at you when you told me about it before I handicapped the race.
So did I. I laughed at him too.
And then I looked at it, and I'm like,
laugh at him a lot.
I'm like, she just makes sense. She just fits. You randomized, idiomatic, search results. Who's your filly with the rail size?
Adair Manor
going on. Adair Manor. This looks quick, and that doesn't always materialize, but it's more likely to be fast than slow anyway. So that's how I see it. So yeah, I think Clarier gets an honest pace. I do. Rosario is so tough to bet right now. This whole year he has been just dreadful. So it's tough because singling Rosario is really taking some financial liberties. But it's kind of weird because I look back at her personal ensign and maybe she just hates the personal ensign because she fired two horrible races in that specific race the last 2 years. Last time, maybe you can attribute that to the slop where she didn't go to the surface very well. Maybe it's just something of that time of the year. I don't know, but regardless, she threw a big clunker in the personal ensign last year and then came back in the Breeders' Cup distaff to lose by a head. So I'm just kind of throwing that out, saying maybe it was the slop or the track or something just didn't work for her there. But she gets a good pace set up here. She hasn't had a fast pace in a long time, and she's still been able to close against some slow paces. So I think she finally gets an honest pace here. So I just think the pace of the race really sets up for her because there aren't a ton of other closers that I think are of the quality to win a race like this, even if they do get the right pace set up. And I think she is probably the only one that is high enough caliber to actually get the job done.
The one other thing that I'll say on Clarier before we beat this horse into the ground is I love this Steve Asmussen work tab. To me, that's a big fat clue. The work 2 works back being 5 furlongs in 59. That's a big work. The last out work being a maintenance move 4 furlongs in 50. To me, that indicates Asmussen has this horse right where he wants her. And if that's the case, I think the Asmussen trainee could get a candy ass trip that falls right into her lap. See what I did there? Huh?
So I guess, and I mean, you guys haven't really addressed it. She doesn't want to go this far, does she? Like she's like 1 for 7 going this trip. I realize she does really well, a 16th shorter, and normally horses get older, they get a little, they can carry that speed longer, yada yada. What's your excuse for her just consistently not getting this trip?
I mean, I think that's really selectively using stats because she's ran to Malafat like 4 of those 8 times, and she's just a little bit worse than Malafat was at that time.
And she ran into Nest 2 starts ago. It's not like she ran terribly. That day's 3rd place finisher was 10 lengths behind her.
She's also beaten Malafat at this distance, which I think if Malafat was still running and was at her best, she would be 1-9 in this race. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you think that a mile and a 16th versus a mile and an 8th for this kind of horse really makes a difference, I don't believe you, but that's a take.
She'll be on none of my tickets, but good for you guys if you got it right.
Yeah, so Nick Feldman was right earlier. He mentioned something where he basically thinks that Mark and him are going to be in the same horses for 90% of the time. And Nick Feldman is, idiomatic retired Nest. So, yeah, he is. I will say Nick Sievers brings up wet paint. I think it might have been on Drinking Champagne where I brought this up. I gave wet paint a look. Might be a C type, if anything, for me. Strictly race flow. I think this horse is terrible. I do not like this horse at all. This is just a plotter.
Tell us how you really feel.
However, occasionally a plotter just gets the stars to align. I mean, heck, what's the horse? Tassis won a race. You know, he's won races before. So if Tassis can win a race, any horse can win a race. Don't let your memes be dreams out there, maidens. Yeah, I just think Wet Paint is a just absolute plotter, but there might be a shot that this thing melts so bad, and hey, maybe Father Time caught up to Clairiere, and maybe Wet Paint gets a candy ass trip and wins. I don't know, but yeah, I like Wet Paint as kind of like a C type in here. I'm gonna be single A to Clairiere. I just don't. I don't want any part of the. I don't want any part of the pace up front. And Optics has got a very crowded Q1 here, and looks like Clairiere is going to get a nice clean trip here. So, also FYI, all the and people, Caleb and Mark can attest to this. I've taken screenshots of every single person who has talked put any bad words about Rosario on here. So I have Cobb, Nick Feldman, I got Road Warrior, Jeffrey Wilson as well. So I look forward to the next stream in sharing some of these thoughts.
Can you do me a favor before we move on out of this race? Nick Feldman just said something very interesting about number 11, Leda Vida. Yep. Ignacio Correas knows how to do funky things in this particular race. He
especially at Santa Anita.
Mm-hmm. He was second last year in that photo with Malafat and Clairiere. And Leda Vida is another closer that could well get an ideal setup. Now, just going off of speed figures, this horse has to move forward a considerable bit. But if you are playing those exactas and tries and you're looking for a clunk-up closer, I think Leda Vida is a horse you could do a lot worse than, because this is a horse that seems to show up more often than not. This is a horse that is definitely going to get some pace in front of her. I don't know if she's quite this classy, but if they're walking coming home, somebody's got to run second or third.
I thought if you like somebody like Wet Paint, I mean, arguably Leda Vida and Wet Paint are basically the same speed figures wise, and you're getting double the price on Leda Vida. I don't hate her at all here if you're using her as an underneath type.
I thought this horse was owned by The Rock because I thought it said owner Rocky Masavia. But
can you boo yourself again?
No, absolutely not going to happen.
Okay, Mark, Caleb, one of us needs to buy a soundboard.
Buy a soundboard so we can boo all of Josh's terrible takes. Yes.
Dude, soundboard wars.
Real quick side note, I felt so bad because I told Chase what I bought and helped him get it set up and everything, but I did his show after he had it, and then we were doing dueling soundboards for a second. And I think like the second time I did it, he got like visibly annoyed and I was like, all right, I think I'm done shitting all over his show. And I don't know if he's asked me back since then. I wonder if that's why. So let's take a look here at the Breeders' Cup turf. This is I think this is a pretty, I guess a more wide open race. But I don't know. I don't think I got very creative here. I mean, first of all, probably the best. Well, up to the mark. Whatever. I'm never betting that horse. But the second best American turf horse, Warlike Goddess, is got a huge jock downgrade last time out, switching from Joel Rosario to Junior Alvarado. So I just can't bet this horse ever again until Joel gets back aboard. But Andrew, where did you kind of land in this race?
You're having a pretty good day today.
Yeah, I was going to say Junior Alvarado.
Stop it. Do you think I remember what horses Junior Alvarado rode? Stop it.
He only rode like one.
Stop it.
So to be fair,
did he ride the Holder? Did he ride the Holder? Is that what?
So to be clear, we can't challenge Josh on anything. Otherwise, he will get mad in all caps. Okay, got it. So
yes.
At any
he goes full trigger if you challenge him on anything. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yes.
My long shot of the day runs in this particular race. It's my second selection. I think Auguste Rodin is very, very, very well men in here. This is a horse that has not done a whole heck of a lot wrong. You throw out the race 2 back where the horse was eased, and you've got a horse that is a legitimate killer for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, who are going to have a pretty big weekend. But the one horse that I think you need to use at a big price is the very first horse in the program. That's number 1, Shirar. I'm throwing out the last race entirely. This horse had a medical procedure done after that. And this is a runner that back in 2022 put forth a number of world-class turf races on a number of different continents too. This is a well-traveled horse. If we get the 2022 version of Shirar, that horse can absolutely win this race. And he can do so at 5 times the price of horses like Auguste Rodin, Mostada, King of Steel. Shirar to me is an absolute must use. I am going to be very, very happy if that horse runs a big, big race. Mostada and King of Steel are Bs for me. Mostada I would love if this race was 1.25 miles. The distance is a legitimate concern for me. And also, we know John Gosden and Frankie Dettori have won a lot of races together. Why is Dettori on King of Steel and not on Mostada? I don't know that answer, but it's incredibly curious to me that that's what wound up happening. And as much as I respect King of Steel, this is a horse that has lost to Auguste Rodin on 3 different occasions. Why should I think this one's going to be any different? 1 and 5 on top, the other 2 euros underneath. And if Shirar winds up winning this particular race, regardless of anything else that happens, it's going to be a very, very good day for me.
Caleb.
Oh boy, this is a good race, isn't it? I mean, sometimes the Breeders' Cup Turf is always a fun race, but you have years like last year where Rebels Romance and Stone Age, they're fine. I mean, they're not the best horses in their barn. They're just fine. But we got some hitters this year. I mean, Nesto coming out of the Arc where he finished 3rd. You have Auguste Rodin, who's clearly very highly regarded, 3-year-old from Aidan O'Brien. We got Mostada, who's probably the horse to beat based off of the body of work, but the distance is a question mark, kind of as Andrew alluded to. King of Steel. The Europeans sent over some of their better horses this year. It's definitely a much deeper field than it was last year. So this is a really fun race. I think that between the 2 major Europeans, I probably do prefer Mostada. I just think he's a little bit more polished. Auguste Rodin, when he's good, he's really good, but he does tend to throw some stinkers, and I'm not really willing to concede the fact that it's just over soft ground because he has 3 wins over soft turf at 3 different tracks. So I struggle to really buy that excuse when you just don't really know when he's going to completely fail to show up. But if the good version of him shows up, then yeah, he's a major contender in here. I'm not hard fading him. I just prefer him a little bit less compared to the other. I do think that the distance is a question for Mostada. I think he's a much better horse 1.25 miles, I think. But I also sort of wonder if he maybe just isn't a better horse at 5 than he was at 3 or 4 as well. And he hasn't really done a ton of running at that distance. But yeah, that definitely is the risk for sure, is that maybe he doesn't quite see out the last 2 furlongs. With that being said, the only American that I think has a prayer in this race, but I do think it's a legitimate chance, is Up to the Mark, who will be the shortest price of all the Americans. But he's been really, really good this year. He won a race last time in the Turf Mile that he had absolutely no right to win, where he was hemmed in, stuck in traffic, weaving in and out of horses, and just barely got up. But he was comfortably 3 lengths the best in that field. So I really think that he is by far a better horse than that race would indicate. His speed figures put him right in the mix for contention here. And I do think a lot of the Europeans are going to take some money because they are very high profile with some big connections. So I could see you getting a price in that 5-1 kind of range. The distance is a bit of a question for him since he's only been campaigned up to 1.25 miles. I do wish he had maybe a slightly longer prep, maybe something in the Sword Dancer or something like that instead of the Turf Mile. I don't think Connections knew exactly where they wanted to go with him between the Mile and the Classic here. But nevertheless, he handled 1.25 miles just fine. He seems to be very versatile, and I really think he's in with a big shot. He's the great hope of America in this race.
I'll keep it nice and simple in here. I think Augusta Rodin just absolutely towers over this field. I mean, my main issue with most of Def is what Caleb already mentioned, and that he may be a little distance limited. But I've been waiting to bet Augusta Rodin when they brought him to the States for quite a while now. I think he's exceedingly talented. There may be an argument to be made that he doesn't always bring his A game, and sometimes he has some weird flops. But I think he's just much more talented than everybody else in this field. And he's my best bet on the weekend. He's a horse that I will have if I'm going to go broke in the Breeders' Cup betting challenge, it's going to be with Augusta Rodin not winning. And I'm fine with that. But he's my best bet on the weekend. And I want to fire into it to a field like this. It's big and competitive, where I hopefully can get a little value. So it's about extracting value out of this race for me more. He's a lone A for me on everything.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. You guys basically covered the horses. I have 4 horses written down. I have 1A, which is Augusta Rodin. And then for B's, I am using the one, I forget, how you pronounce this, Andrew?
Sharar.
All right. Sharar. I'm going to go ahead and use Most of Def, and I'm also going to use King of Steel. So it's basically super chalk in this race for me, but I can't wait to watch Up to the Mark run a tired 7th, and they retire this horse because I just hate good stories, right? I just do. And then I want the horse to come back into the Pegasus World Cup turf and be 2-5, and Mike Maker beat the crap out of him with some random horse that you haven't even heard of. He takes that Jumps horse back out from Jumps training and runs him. Who is it?
Cross Border is
Cross Border. Cross
Oh,
Border
yeah.
comes out of retirement to win.
Josh, so there's one horse that nobody's talked about. We probably should mention. That's the 2-horse Ernesto, who you have to draw a line through a couple of his more recent races where he's been beaten by Augusta Rodin, but he's a horse that, if you look at some of his back form, has some races that fit very well in this field. I actually think you probably get a little bit better than that morning line. His arc was a very, very nice race where he threw a 1:31 time form, which I think is the fastest time form fig in this field. It's a couple points faster than anything that Augusta Rodin has run. So if they've sort of figured out his quirks and they have him on his A game, I think Ernesto at a bit of a price is sort of the, if Augusta Rodin doesn't win, I think he's the other horse that I sort of want. Again, a little bit of a question of distance, but his arc was a pretty nice race.
The only question that I have with Ernesto, and this was the reason that I decided not to use him, his bigger races have come over going that's listed as soft. I'm just not sure he's going to get anywhere close to that kind of footing tomorrow over that Santa Anita turf course that I don't think has been soft in a very, very, very long time. He's a very nice horse, and I saw that time form number 2, but I just don't think he gets the going that he wants. I'd like him a lot more if it was supposed to rain.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yep, completely agree with that take.
So the thing I hate the most is good stories in horse racing, right? That's obviously number 1. Number 2 thing I hate are horses that have stud deals before they go to the Breeders' Cup, which automatically crosses Ernesto off of my list, as if he was announced to be retiring after the Breeders' Cup and going to stud in 2024. He's standing at some random farm in France that no one's ever heard of. Get your baguettes and wine ready for the pony rides, and Andrew just cannot believe.
Josh, you're killing me.
He's just shaking his head.
I'm just trying to find the appropriate dad joke that I can trot out as retribution for all of this.
Nick Feldman saying that he did hear a stat this week that ARC also rans have a pretty good record in the BC turf, better than ARC winners.
The ARC Breeders' Cup Turf Double has been historically incredibly hard. Not many horses have been able to do that.
Not many horses win both, but there's a lot of also-rans from the ARC that do very well in the Breeders' Cup Turf.
So the race that you want to bet that's on that same card is the Opera to Breeders' Cup.
Didn't Enable do it? Didn't she win the ARC and then win?
She did. She's the last one to have done it for
Yep.
quite a while.
See, I know who Enable is. I don't know who the hell Beholder is, but I know. Who
Oh,
Enable
good
is.
for you. You know who Enable is. Do you want a cookie, Josh?
Given my current health situation, that could possibly kill me. So thank you, Andrew. Man, race 9, the Breeders' Cup Classic.
I think I may have just broken Mark. Sorry about that.
What? Race 9, the Breeders' Cup Classic. Man, what just Arcangelo scratching out of this race just literally, I don't know, it just ruined any kind of value I think I was going to get out of this race. I thought that horse was going to be overbet and just had no shot in this race. Yeah, I ended up scratching out. So your morning line favorite, well, it was, but it still will be the 12 Arabian Nights. White Abario and Ushba Tesoro at 4-1. And if you look at the double payouts, White Abario is, I believe, a pretty clear favorite. I think he's floating around 2-1 in the double pool. I can pull it up in a second here, but yeah, this is just like, I don't know. I'm obviously going to be live into something hopefully here in horizontally, and I mean, there's only 2 horses I really like in this race. One is the aforementioned White Abario, but he's going to be so short. I didn't think he was going to be that short. I thought all the money was going to flow in on the Baffert horse, but I don't know. Maybe everyone else saw him run the hole and win last time out, and is betting back that up. But I'm very interested in the 8 Ushba Tesoro at 4-1. I think you're going to get less than that because of the scratch of the aforementioned Arcangelo. But I think he's definitely in here with a big shot. And you know, I have him written down as my lone B in here. I'm only going with those 2 horses. I'm going with White Abario coming in just great form, and then Ushba Tesoro. I mean, speaking of great form, rattling off 6 straight wins, and yeah, shipping in here. I mean, beat a pretty nice horse in Algiers, and obviously won that Dubai World Cup. And I mean, beat all the American horses that were in that race. So I think he looks really nice in this race. So I'm going to be 3-8, and that's it. Caleb, where did you land?
This is a really tough race for me. I don't like anybody, and that makes it very hard to land on a given horse. Well, I like White Abario a little bit, but I think you have to be concerned about where did that last race come from? Does he run back to it? Does he bounce? Can he ship to California and repeats? I mean, just there's so many questions that I was hoping, I guess, hopelessly hoping at this point that he would be 5 or 6-1 and I could justify the risk. But if he's going to be 5-2 or 3-1 or whatever, or even just a favorite in horizontal sequences, I don't know that risk is compensated enough for me to go to him. But yeah, it's tough. So the horse that I sort of begrudgingly landed up on is not one that I was expecting to like ever. But I don't actually hate Zandon in this race. It's just such an ugly race.
Did not see that coming.
I know.
No, I did not either.
Like I said, I don't like anybody in this field, but Zandon is super consistent. He always shows up. But the biggest knock against him has always been that he's just kind of a bridesmaid. He hangs. He doesn't get the job done. He runs second. I'm just hoping that the light bulb went off and they figured something out, to whether it was a mental thing or whatever, but they figured something out because he had a commanding win last time in the Woodward at Aqueduct. And I'm hoping that he can just run, because he doesn't really need to improve all that much on figures, if at all, truthfully. And it seems like between Saudi Crown and Arabian Night, the pace should be honest. There's a few others that may get involved, but I think those are your pretty 2 clear-cut leaders. And I just think he seems to he's not a bad horse. He just hasn't won. If they figured out what to do to get him mentally right or whatever else, I think he really fits in here. So He's only 4 years old, which it feels like he's a 7-year-old gelding at this point. But he's really only a 4-year-old horse with a couple of starts this year. He has upside. So, yeah, trust me, I wasn't expecting to land there. But when I handicapped it, that's kind of where I landed.
But Caleb,
it would appear as though we have attracted the Zandon fan club into tonight's live stream.
yeah,
A lot of people on this horse,
but
man.
I'm a little confused. Caleb, I thought the Woodward gets run at Saratoga.
Yeah, right. Just like, yeah, I got nothing.
Just like what's the other one? Crap, I forget.
What's the one they switched? The
Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Yes,
Jockey Club Gold.
yes.
Yeah, they run that at Belmont, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is why it doesn't matter what the heck happened 6 years ago with your Beholder. All right. Yes, I went there just to make a point.
Us Saratoga historians, Mark and I, are literally both about to explode.
Good, because right before I said that, I literally messaged Caleb. I'm going to trigger the New Yorkers here. So,
yes, you're going to trigger the transplanted New Yorkers that are now Californians, if only for a couple of days in Mark's case. But look, I get where you're going, Caleb, with Zandon. Somebody has to win this race, and it may as well be somebody coming in off of a win. The Woodward, in its luxurious history, has had many fantastic renewals. This year's was not one of them. This is a far cry from tackling film star and law professor. We talked a lot about how the Dirt Mile was a grade 3 masquerading as a grade 1. The Woodward was an optional claimer masquerading as a grade 2. It just was not that good. Guys, I can't get there with Zandon. I can't do it. And I can't get there because of one logical question. If Ushba Tesoro runs the race he ran in Dubai, who beats him?
Half the field.
Nobody.
One of you is right, and it's not the person that said half the field. If he runs the race he ran in Dubai, where he beat maybe not a world-class field, but a good field that included Algiers, Emblem Road, Country Grammar, a few other good horses, doesn't he win this for fun? White Abarrio's only been 1.25 miles one time. He was 16th beaten 20 lengths. Arabian Night had a Rudy Poo candy-ass trip when he won the Pacific Classic. In 2:03, they came home walking on that particular day. Give me all of Ushba Tesoro. I have liked that horse for a very long time in this spot. I was hoping we were going to get 8-1, 10-1, but then Mage didn't ship and Go Rocket Ride broke down and Arcangelo's not going to run. And now we're getting 4-1 off of a horse that I thought we were going to get 8-1, 10-1 just 2 weeks ago. Ushba Tesoro to me lords over this field.
I think lords over would not be the word I would use. I think he, at least in my world, he's the most likely winner, though. He's in extremely good form. He's a horse that, again, his Dubai World Cup race was very nice, as were his last couple of races. I mean, he's on a string where he is, really running really well, and this is his trip, and this is what he does really well. He's perfect going 6 for 6 on this trip. I think he's getting discounted because Japanese horses never won the Classic. And if I get 4-1 range, which seems to be what the Pravos are implying, I think that's a great spot. It's a great price on a horse like him. Zandon, I finally just in his Woodward, to beat up on Caleb a little, just finally ran into a field that was just terrible enough that he could actually win. He's a horse that he basically runs the same race. If you want to use him underneath an exacta, yeah, that'd be a great thing. But he just does not like to, just does not have that killer instinct. He's just not a horse that seems to just really get it done. Beyond Ushba Tesoro, the two horses I'm interested in, I think Saudi Crown, the Brad Cox horse, is an interesting player here. There's an argument to be made that, did his best stuff come over sloppy going, and did that move him forward a ton? Maybe it did, but he does seem to be kind of rounding into form back half of this year. His Dwyer, even though he didn't win, was a really nice race. Figures off that Dwyer fit really well here. It's a little bit, does his pedigree stretch out? I don't know, but I'm getting a hell of a price to, on a trainer that seems to be pedigree doesn't really matter, and he can make him run any distance he wants him to. And the other horse I was a little bit interested in here is and I don't really know which direction to go here. But I'll say Bright Future for now, the 11, who has, rattled off 2 in a row, won the Jockey Club Gold Cup, which is a historically good prep race for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And you're going to get a really nice price on a horse that seems to be kind of figuring things out, kind of moving forward. I don't even hate Dreamlike, the 10, but I'm sort of trying to figure out which of the 2 Pletchers I'm more interested in. And I think I probably end on Bright Future, who seems to be a little more consistent in finding the winner's circle at least. But
you mentioned Dreamlike. You mentioned Dreamlike. You mean the horse that ran 3rd behind Lord Miles in the Wood Memorial at 59-1, paying $120.
That was a lot of effort to give yourself a plug there, Andrew. But well done. I
got the boo, and Josh's 10,000 ridiculous things did not get the boo. Dude. Everybody out there, you know what matters.
Dude, Andrew, at some point you said that this horse lords over the field and then over the field.
I know, I heard it too.
And I thought you were gonna be like, and he's miles ahead. Yeah, and I was just gonna be like, oh my god.
See, really I'm in your heads now, and it's never gonna get out. Victory is mine, baby.
Yeah. So, Nick Feldman actually really likes Dreamlike. He says it's his top pick. 30-1, going to shock the world. Zandon runs 2nd. I'll tell you what, dude. I want to say half the chat thinks Zandon's going to run 2nd. So if we're gonna groupthink this, I think you just key Zandon in 2nd, and just use a couple of the logicals in 1st and 3rd, and we got a trifecta. We got a Chase Sessom style trifecta going here.
I just can't get there with Dreamlike. I find it very difficult to believe that the horse I saw run 5th, beaten 13 lengths in a 1st level allowance at Saratoga 2 starts ago, is going to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. But far be it for me to talk anybody off a ridiculous price. I mean, Volponi did win this race one year.
I mean, hell, Lord Miles won the Woods, so.
Yes, he did. I mean, and over this track, by the way, this was the track where our Kong won a Breeders' Cup Classic at 99-1. Josh, look that one up.
Cobb is mentioning, why is nobody talking about Arabian Night? And this now, granted, Caleb, you have a rule.
I do have a rule. I bet every horse with the word night in their name. But I feel like I need to put in a pricing floor for that rule, because 3-1 for a Baffert horse, I feel like that doesn't really check out.
What about Oil Can Night at like 2-1?
Any price for Oil Can Night, any price, any track. He could be in this race and I'd bet him. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't love Arabian Night, and I thought I would like him more before I actually, like I said, I was more surprised when I handicapped this race as to where I landed and where I didn't land than any other race across both days of the weekend. I thought that I would like Arabian Night more than I do. He just sort of seems okay. I mean, you have to like the fact that he's proven at the distance, especially in only his 4th start. But he's just kind of a fringe contender to me. He's not a standout on essentially any metrics that you look at, and he's going to get bet as if he is. So I just think that he's going to be an underlay almost certainly relative to what I think his chances to win are. He's going to have to deal with Saudi Crown on the front end. That horse almost certainly is going to go. So that he's going to take some serious pace pressure going farther than, farther than the last time he took serious pace pressure. He did have the patented Baffert rebreak in the Pacific Classic, but I don't know. We didn't see Baffert's horses really show up that much today. I mean, even the juvenile, Muth was a very distant second, and then the other 2 Bafferts really didn't show up at all. So Baffert's been a little bit cold. He's only 18% at the meet, and that's fairly low for him, a guy who's a 30% perennial guy. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a good reason to be against him other than I think that he's going to be an underlay, and he's going to have pace pressure from Saudi Crown.
So I think Andrew will appreciate this storyline I'm making up right here, all right? Because I know Andrew, right? So we got the 6 and the 12 just dueling, right? And what happens? Nobody else goes, right? It's just the 2 of them dueling. And right, the 6 puts the 12 away, and then you get the patented Baffert rebreak. But what happens after the patented rebreak by Baffert? The patented Cox break. All right. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just like when Like when someone would try to put when Ric Flair would try to put Bret Hart in the sharpshooter, like they're using their own move against each other.
There's a number of things wrong with that particular sentence, but go on.
Okay, when he would use his own move against him.
So here's my thing with Arabian Night. I thought he had a picture-perfect trip in the Pacific Classic, which, yes, was a 1.25 mile race. Del Mar has a very short stretch. It is very kind to speed horses at that 1.25 mile distance. That Pacific Classic was run in 2:03 flat. They were walking home. Nobody was finishing that particular day. Arabian Night at 4 maybe has the ability to compensate for that against this kind of group. If he wins this particular race, I think he's an underlay in doing it. Does he have a chance? Sure. Am I going to be betting him at 5-2? No.
So Caleb, your local, well, when you're not at MIT, your local track, Fairgrounds, seems to have the longest track or the longest stretch. And how does that dirt usually play?
Yeah, you could say it's a little forward.
But so I will say the one pace scenario I have thought of, and which kind of just throws a wrench in all of this, is if it's just Saudi Crown and Arabian Night on the front end, and they get to get away with murder on the front end, just the two of them, and one of those two is winning. I think you do need somebody else to go to kind of mess that candy ass trip, if you will. Up
Josh,
again.
Nick Feldman just said the secret set of words.
What's that? Dermasotogake
is going to be going early. That horse wants to go early. Totally missed the break in the Kentucky Derby. Do not use that as an indication of his running style. He wants to be forward.
I will tell you that there would be nothing more poetic than Dermasotogake knocking both Caleb and I out of a pick 5.
There is a 0% chance that he will knock me out of the pick 5.
Because you're going to have him?
Because I'm going to have him, yes.
Okay. I was going to say, there would be nothing more poetic. Caleb and I, we're talking about getting matching headbands and just we had futures bets up and down on him. Yeah, I don't know. This is probably a tougher race than just like I said, I'm using 2 horses. Full disclosure, I'm in charge of a group ticket, and we are definitely not just going to be using 2 horses in this race. But on my personal tickets, I'm going to try and be skinny here because I think it is a spread race, and I try to zig when other people's are zagging. So I'm going to try and be skinny here with just the 3 and the 8. But it basically, with the exception of maybe Clapton, yeah, maybe missed the cut too. I guess. Well, missed the cut kind of makes a little bit of sense on figures, but I don't know. If any horse wins, it's not going to be this is the greatest surprise ever. I do think this race is going to be a little bit flatter than I think the odds are going to show. So maybe this is if you're trying to play game theory, this is where you go bombs away. Maybe Nick Feldman's got the right idea. Hey, go with a 30-1 in this spot. But I saw in chat a little bit about Proxy. Any of you guys interested in Proxy?
No,
not for me.
I maybe a C for me. I looked at him for a long time. I thought if the more fancied horses don't show up, he's kind of a worse Zandon in my mind. I know Sixer like this horse. He maybe prefers him to Zandon, but yeah, I think he's kind of a horse that if some of the bigger players don't show up, he's going to run his race and maybe it'll be good enough. But yeah, I think he's probably up against it a little bit with that draw.
One of the great quotes in Mike Stidham's career came after the 2-back win in the Monmouth Cup when the track interviewer on the track feed was talking to him and said, so I know last time he did not have a great trip in the Stephen Foster when he took back and encountered some trouble. Was the plan to put him on the lead? And Mike Stidham had to pause for a moment and went, no, No, that was not part of the plan.
But who's aboard and who knows best? Joel Rosario.
Can someone explain this shtick to me, please?
This is serious. I think Joel Rosario, when he is at his best, is hands down the best jockey in the entire United States. The problem is he's only at his best maybe 5% of the time. Which, I mean, if you see some of his rides, there's that ride in the Belmont Stakes. What's the name of the horse? I always get him mixed up. But
Sir Winston?
Yeah, Sir Winston. Just the amazing ride he gave on Sir Winston. I think he's very, very good on the front end with horses. However, he doesn't know that he's very good on the front end with horses for some reason. See him losing the mount on Latruska after taking her back. But yeah, I don't know. I really think that when his head is right and he's on his game, he's better than Irad. I really think that.
We've got 2 more races to go, and Josh, something you just said segues pretty nicely into the turf sprint if nobody has any objections.
Yeah, go for it.
So Rosario regains the mount on Big Invasion for reasons passing understanding, because Rosario has actively curtailed Big Invasion's chances on a number of occasions. Can you tell I needed him on the undercard of the Kentucky Derby in the Grade 2 turf sprint? When the running line says checked off heels at the 8th pole, if you want to see an example of Joel Rosario at his worst, watch that ride. It was absolutely terrible. And by the way, I would like Big Invasion a fair bit if he had a better draw. I think the rail is just death for him.
Yeah, he did, and he ran pretty well 2 back in the Gregory Peck too. So,
Get out. We will not besmirch Harvey Pack in this dojo. We won't do it.
Caleb, I have a single in this race. Who is it?
Well, the number 7. No balls.
Yep. Don't need to look any further. No balls. Not Joel. Sorry, I was too busy talking about Joel. Gerardo Corrales, Larry Ravelli, going to the front, and has only got one way to go. And I will say, I think, huh? You don't think he's going to make the front? How do you not think he's going to make the lead?
Because the 5's faster.
In what world is the 5 faster?
In literally all of them.
So the last race of the 5 is faster than the 7. That he set on real fractions. But
since
I don't
when
know
does
that
Batman train horses? Like, what the hell is going on over here?
TV's Adam West. Nice.
By the way, best comment so far in the stream from our boy Road Warrior. This race should absolutely be down the hill.
It should be.
I have no idea why it is not down the hill. It is stupid that this race is not down the hill. Absolutely harebrained. How's that for a passionate plea?
Go ahead, Caleb. Sorry, I cut you off like 3 times.
You're fine. Just to address the pace perspective, the 5 ran insane fractions in that Woodford at Keeneland. I mean, 20 and change, 43 and change. If he wants to, I mean, he's probably faster than No Balls, but I think we also saw how that worked out. And I get the feeling they may have some different tactics involved here. He does have early speed, but I can't imagine the plan is going to be to go sub 44 and just hope to hold on. But anyway, go back to what you were saying about Ravelli and how much you love him.
I mean, my love for Larry Ravelli has no bounds. So, I mean, I still wish I could bet 2 fills all over again in that Derby. And I still feel very much vindicated in the way he ran that Derby. And I think he would have been of the 3-year-olds that kept on staying in. I think he would have stayed. And that circles off the page based off of 1 race. So I'm not going to go ahead and just assume because 1 race he ran off. And Adam West said that he wants to try and pay his mother's mortgage with winning. And guess what? If Adam West horse does this, Mama's getting foreclosed on. So he might want to rein that horse back a little bit. I'm going to use No Balls in this spot. be a lone A for me. There's a couple other horses I do like as B types, but I will let I'll let somebody else talk. Mark, where did you land?
I think it goes to the five. I do like No Balls in here quite a lot, but I think Live the Dream is. I'll give him one more shot. He was, he's got a ton of early speed. He was very good in Europe. And honestly, he's got a half furlong left to run. I realize even with a half furlong left in that Keeneland race, he still wasn't winning. But I think this 5 suits him better than the 5.5 at Keeneland. That probably has more cut, and I would imagine this 5 furlong at Santa Anita will carry speed a little better. So I'm 5 or 7 in here, and just hope that the two of them don't melt it down being stupid.
Andrew.
Quite the hope.
Shout out to Nick Feldman in the chat, because the more I look at Roses for Deborah, the more that I like her. I think the last race at Parks is not necessarily a throwout, but you remember how much of a bog Parks was that day. I just wanted to see a little bit of a run. Got the little bit of a run. I'm not going to hold that against her too much. You do want to be on or near the lead going 5 furlongs at Santa Anita. We talked about how the main track was playing fair. When you're going that short at Santa Anita, you don't want to be too far back. Having said that, we've gone through a number of horses that have ridiculous early speed without mentioning the horse that won this race last year, Caravel. I don't think Caravel is going to be sitting back in 6th, 5 lengths off the lead, guys. So I think there is going to be some pace signed on. And I want a horse that has enough early speed to sit close, but isn't going to be completely taken out of its element by other horses going faster. And with that in mind, I look at Roses for Deborah, who the 4 starts before that race at Parks did absolutely nothing wrong. You look and you see a lot of 1s after that horse was moved over to the barn of Christophe Clement, who knows how to win some pretty big turf races, folks. I see Christophe Clement. I see a Rat Ortiz Jr. I see a horse that loves firm going, and I see 12-1 when this horse could have first run turning for home. Guys, sign me up. I respect the 2 speed horses that you guys were talking about. I respect Caravel, but I think Roses for Deborah is the value play in here.
If Caravel wins, I'll light myself on fire. But yeah, I do agree with you on Roses for Deborah. I think she's interesting in here. The last race, like you said, not a throwout per se, but probably not the race to judge her form on either. So I agree with you. I think she's a little bit sneaky in here. I guess just a point of clarification. I know Bradsell is out. Do we know if the 13 is in or is the 14
I
in?
believe the 13 is out and Beer Can Man does draw in.
Correct.
Okay, good. I'm not interested in Beer Can Man. I was just curious. I did think the 13 was actually the other Ravelli was a little bit interesting in that spot had he drawn in. But my top pick is one that somebody else, Nick Feldman, mentioned as his second pick, Motorious. I think this is there should be speed in here. There should be pace in here. And this is a really nice gelding. He's West Coast based, although he did make a couple trips out to the East. So I love the fact he's kind of is the local horse here. And he's gotten the job done going 5 furlongs multiple times. He's never missed the exacta out of 4 tries, despite the fact that we typically think of closers as struggling to get the job done at this strip. Now, the fact that he's wide and a closer is definitely going to hurt him a little bit in here. He's going to need some magic from Flavian Pratt to work out that trip. But I think he's just a really nice horse. He should have probably beaten No Balls in the turf sprint at Churchill. He had to really navigate some traffic and dart in and out. There was a couple of trips in that race, as Andrew already alluded to. And then, I thought going down the hill, he just ran into the downhill specialist Lane Way, who just really seems to enjoy that trip. But I think Motorious is a really interesting player in here. There isn't one horse that I'm going to be like, yes, that's the pick that I love. But I would say that's probably the one that I would say is my most likely winner is the number 10 Motorious.
Cobb saying the O'Brien horse is at 12-1. More money for him tomorrow. Which horse is that? That is Aesop's
that would be
Fables.
Aesop's Fables, horse number 8 in the program.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with him. I mean, he ran a really nice race in the Prix d'Abbé at losing by a length to Highfield Princess, who would be the favorite in here without a doubt. The question is, again, where did that race come from, though? I mean, that was a big race for a horse that, quite frankly, has not been competitive at this level. So I don't know that I totally am convinced that this horse will run back to that. But if you think that he will, then yeah, 12-1's a good price.
The other issue of the Aesops is he just doesn't win. He's historically been a horse that either hangs or just never gets it done. He won his first two and then hasn't won since. So
say the line, Mark.
He's
say the line.
Take out reducer.
No, the other one. Your line. What's your line?
He's camera shy.
Doesn't like to get his picture taken. Yeah.
Picture taken. Yeah. Doesn't like to get photo taken. I was going to say, if you're going, if we're going a little deeper in here, the one other horse that I do like a little bit is Jasper Crone, the 11, who's a horse that does like to get his photo taken. And, this is probably a little sharper than he really wants to be doing. He's more of a 6 furlong specialist, but he's got a lot of speed, and he's also shown that he can come from a little bit out of it. So if they do get a little stupid on the front end, he's the type that can close. He's won in some crazy big fields, crazy competitive fields. So he's the type that can get it done, versus a real big competitive race. So I think he's an interesting, if I have to go a little deeper, he's the one that I would sort of lean on.
I was looking at Jasper Crone, and I got to tell you, with that pedigree, how is this horse a sprinter?
I always thought the same thing. He's got just the most atypical sprinter pedigree ever, but that's you would think he wants to be going, 1.25 miles on the turf, not 6, right?
I guess a few comments in chat. Nick's asking about stats on these types of races. Santa Anita never runs 5 furlong turf sprints. They always go. Yeah. They have a 6 furlong shoot, a 6.5 furlong shoot, or down.
And they also have that, wonderful downhill turf.
Yeah. So there's no statistically significant sample size in the 5 furlong races. Down the hill, typically outside posts do well. So if that's what you're thinking of, then yeah, that's true. But there's nothing meaningful for this 5 furlong configuration. I got nothing else here.
Yeah, I don't really have much here. I mean, there's a couple other horses I like. I think you guys talked about most of them. I think Motorius makes a ton of sense. Obviously, No Balls.
What's the take? What's the take on Arzak?
I have been chasing Arzak for a very, very long time. I got off a couple of starts before his win last time out. Seems like one of those horses that's always flying late, but always leaves with just a little too much to do.
Yeah, last race was enormous, but he also got a absolutely nuclear pace to chase after and kind of tripped out to some extent. So
yeah, and I also don't know if 5 furlongs is really his jam. I feel like 5.5 or 6, he'd stand a much better chance.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree with Andrew there. It seems like this is sharp for him.
Did you have something else you wanted to add, Josh? I'm gonna cut you off.
No, that's about it. I mean, Arzak was one I kind of looked at. I was with you. I was actually really interested in One Timer if he or is it he or she if he drew in. Yeah, like I feel like with No Balls, they had him cross-entered that day. He won at Colonial at a race at Kentucky Downs, and I really just think that they wanted just a kind of an easy prep to come here. So they went to Colonial, got their check, and he won pretty easy in that one. But yeah, like I said, Motorius is one I like a little bit of. I mean, Caravel, maybe if the price is right, I'll go that well, but she just kind of seems like maybe she's finally off form and is going to stop getting so damn lucky. I'm not bitter at all, but all the times I try to beat Caravel. But yeah, let's close it out here. Race 11, the BC Sprint. And yeah, this is another race where I'm going to try and beat the favorite here. The favorite is Elite Power. Caleb, you had a comment for me last week. Or yesterday? What did you say?
I said you still have the hate boner for Elite Power. I see.
Yeah. So yeah, I do not have Elite Power on any of my tickets. I think this is a 3-horse race. But Andrew, what have you
Clearly,
put
he's
on?
one of the 3, right?
He's not one of the 3.
So I've been waiting to trot this out since we went live almost 2 hours ago. Y'all can call me Lonely Island because I'm on a boat. Speedboat Beach looks really good here, guys. Trainer body language is what it is, and it's often very dangerous to read too much into the things trainers say, because no trainer 5 days before a Breeders' Cup race is going to say, yeah, my horse is doing horrible. I have no idea why we're here. With his last work, he went out at around the same time Arabian Night did. TVG caught up with him, and he said, yeah, Arabian Night worked pretty good. We're pretty confident. We think we've got the gas tank full. And then they started talking about this horse, and Baffert's eyes lit up and said, I loved his work this morning. Bob Baffert is not the type to get overly emotional about the way a horse works. But I look at this horse. I see a runner that did everything but win last time out in his first start in almost 11 months. I see a horse that first time out went 101-4 over the main track at Del Mar. And what's that running line say, Josh, for that race?
Ones.
No. The comment line. I'm sorry.
Oh,
far right.
new track record.
Yes, new track record. Guys, I think Speedboat Beach has had his issues. I think they're fixed, and I think he's loaded. I feel like we've seen this before with Baffert, and usually when we see this with Baffert horses, they run well. I like Speedboat Beach a fair bit in here. The other one that I'm going to lean on a little bit at a price, just because he always shows up, is Gunite on the far outside. And I know 4-1 on the morning line doesn't necessarily seem like a price, but this is a good betting race, and Gunite will not go favored. This is a horse that 2 starts back beat Elite Power on the square in the forego. No idea why they ran him a mile at Parks last time out. We know what he is. He is not a 2-turn horse. And that was also that day at Parks. That was a total bog. I am not holding that race against him. I like the outside draw. Gunite always seems to fire, and I can't leave him off my tickets. My 2As are 7 and 9 in that order. I respect Elite Power. I am not like Josh. I think Elite Power does have a bit of a shot. I just think he's an underlay at his likely price. That's all.
Yes, that was a bounce sound.
Yeah, I can be quick in this race because I think it's a 2-horse race, and it's Gunite or it's Elite Power. It's the same 2 horses it's been the entire year. They are a clear top 2 in this division. Gunite finally turned the tables last time by taking advantage of some pace dynamics and forcing Elite Power to go inside. I think that was a great crafty ride by Tyler there. But I think Elite Power is probably still better. Belmont's horses seem to be firing the Breeders' Cup so far. He had, just FYI, win a race earlier today with a really big effort, an impressive race. I think Elite Power is a little more likely. I think Gunite gets a better trip. I'm probably not going to overthink it. I'll probably take both and just be done.
Yeah, couldn't agree with Caleb more. I would lead Gunite over Elite Power just because I always had a soft spot for Gunite. He's just a cool horse. I really like him. He's been really good to me in the in my wagering as well. I think I couldn't agree more. I think it's either Elite Power or Gunite here. I would lead Gunite, but I really think it's just 2 horses. I mean, and again, unless you really want to get into some of the local horses, Speedboat Beach, I have just no interest in. Somebody like Chosen Vron loves this track, loves this trip. He's a little bit interesting, but I just don't think he's good enough to make the winner's circle. And then the horse that I literally, in my history of betting horses, have never been more wrong on a horse consistently than, and that's the number 2, Dr. Scheibel. He makes some sense in here.
You like Dr. Scheibel?
I think he doesn't. He sort of.
No, I don't hate him, but you're the resident Dr. Scheibel hater, not me.
I'm saying I am the resident Dr. Scheibel hater. I have him written down more so that I can say that, oh yeah, I liked him a bit when I don't use him. That's really my logic.
Oh, you're doing the horse racing Twitter thing where you talk about every horse so that you can go back and say, oh, I talked about him.
I can go back and say, yeah. The only two horses that'll be on any tickets are Elite Power and Gunny. That's the only two I'll have anywhere.
When you started talking about Elite Power, Caleb, I don't even know what post position this horse was because I'm so uninterested in it. So I was scrolling through the PPs. I didn't even remember what number Elite Power was.
Caleb, I do have to ask Caleb, what's your take on Dr. Scheibel? I mean,
I'm not going to use a third horse, but if I was, it would be him. Okay, I think if for some reason the big two don't fire, I think he's the logical third pick.
Yeah, Cobb is asking if let us know what you do with Dr. Scheibel so they can do the opposite, Mark. So sure.
Yes, Cobb, that was exactly what I was asking because as long as Caleb kind of likes him, I think I can toss him. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a 3-horse race. I think my 2 A's are going to be Speedboat Beach and Gunite. I think that they both make a ton of sense in this spot. I don't need this 8-horse anywhere. And like, I think if I were to talk, like if Andrew were to describe me to somebody, right, he would, tall, good looking, heart of gold. And probably the third or fourth thing he would say is this man hates money. Right. So maybe I just hate money. Right. And that's why I'm fading this 8, but will not be on any of my tickets. I think if I'm going to use a B, it's going to be the 6, the Chosen Vron, who, I don't know why the connections were just hiding this horse in state bred all this time. But the Bing Crosby, I mean, he beat Dr. Scheibel, or Shivel or whatever the heck they call him. And, won a grade 1 after being mostly a state bred horse. So, horse loves Santa Anita. It's 3 for 3 at the distance. He's got 7 wins in 8 tries here at Santa Anita. I think he makes a ton of sense here. I will say I think Speedboat Beach has got a shot in this race to just get the lead and go and not stop. Optics has got him plotted out as the likely leader in this spot, and Gunite sitting just in second. I think those are your 2 most likely winners in this spot. I think Elite Power is going to be coming from third or like 4th or 5th. Maybe not that like far back, but I just think that if anyone gets to jump on those 2, it's going to be the 6, the Chosen Vron. So I'm 7-9 with 6 here. Anything else that we want to talk about here? Andrew just looks like in absolute shock. And
well, yes, because I thought I was being contrarian and I got blown out of the water on the contrarian scale because I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'll try to get Elite Power out of the exacta. Josh, you seem to think Elite Power is about to run last.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But so to be clear, if we were going even money and you would take 3 Technique over Elite Power.
Yes.
Okay. As much money as you want.
Hey, I mean, I was very much against that other favorite earlier today, and that worked out pretty well for me. And what was that horse, Caleb? I already forgot. It was the horse that Mark singled.
Tamara, something like that.
Yeah, Tamara.
Yeah, one that Mark loved.
Yeah. I think she's still running. Actually, I don't know if she's finished yet, but
she ran 3rd, didn't she?
I think she was.
Tamara, no, she was off the board.
Yeah.
Oh, was she off the board? No.
Yeah, she.
Yeah. I realized they were coming around the corner, right? Yeah, right in front of us. They were coming around the corner. I was like, "Oh, this isn't gonna happen." Wow. Okay.
Oh my goodness gracious! I just saw that, Caleb. That is so. Oh my God. Caleb just noted that he overseas might have Clarier somewhere at 6-1. And he got Clarier at +600, so that
It's gonna be Dermot Sotogake.
Oh, it's gonna be Dermot Sotogake, dude. We had him at 25-1 or something, or 30-1, and we were just, dude, me, him, and our buddy Cash. We were just on cloud 9 because I got someone in Vegas to go to Circa and put down a cash bet for me, and man, we were counting down the days to the Derby to cash that $2,500 from that each. From that bet, but alas,
and then he didn't break.
Alas, that he did not break.
It's okay. We get even tomorrow.
There you go. The quest to even. Mark, I did have a request from somebody, from Nick Feldman. He just wanted to know what your plan for BC is tomorrow. You don't have to be super specific, but maybe if you got a general plan of what you're going to try and do tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a couple of plays early. Try to bankroll build, and then try to absolutely slam Auguste Rodin. Probably slam Auguste Rodin with doubles. It'll depend whether I go into that race or out of that race, depending on what I see on the board and what I see for actual prices. So there's a little bit left of just, okay, I'm getting the value proposition that I want in this spot. But I think I'll probably have some. Predominantly doubles is how I'm kind of focused, because that just tends to be how I approach things. But yeah, no, I think I wasn't hiding anything when I'm giving out horses I like. So you're going to see a lot of me linking them together in doubles, horses I mentioned on the stream.
I will say Nick Feldman did bring up one good point about Speedboat Beach, because, broke the record. Then they put him on turf immediately after that.
According to Baffert, by the way, that was to get him away from Cave Rock.
Interesting. So, that's interesting, because Baffert's been very he's been on the record at saying someone asked him hey, when you put a horse on turf, is that because you don't think it's very good? And he basically was like, "Yep, we got no other option, so we put him on turf and see what happens," So it's interesting that he went that way with Speedboat Beach, but I don't know. I think he came back on dirt and he kind of backed it up, right? He finished second in that race, but I think he backed it up. Cobb asking if anyone mentioned Chosen Vron. We did talk about him. I like him.
I like him a little.
You like him a little?
Super
probably more,
cool
probably
horse.
more underneath.
Yeah, I love the horse. I don't think he's quite fast enough to beat the big two, but
likewise.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Anything else on tomorrow's card? I know we covered all the BC races. We skipped. We didn't let Mark talk about Charge It because we know he's going to be financially irresponsible. And Mark, I wish you would just sign me up as your financial advisor, so I could tell you that I have was it a fiduciary duty or whatever? Fiduciary. Thank you. Really, fiduciary. Very emphasize the douche. Fiduciary duty to tell you that you, under no circumstances, are allowed to bet Charge It tomorrow. But I know that you just have no regard for your bankroll or human life, so you probably will be all in on Charge It.
So wait a second. I missed that part of the stream because I was stuck in LA traffic. If you hate all nice things in horse racing, so therefore Cody's Wish cannot be your top pick.
Oh, absolutely
not.
not.
What do you like in that race?
Zozos and National Treasure for
not
me.
the bet.
Who is it?
Zozos National. Okay.
4-6. I have 4, 6, 9. I like Skippy Longstocking a lot there.
I would like Skippy Longstocking if the track was wet.
And if it was in West Virginia.
Yeah.
That too.
Hey, look at West Virginia shippers going to California. We've heard this story before, Caleb. So
yes, we have.
Had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah. But I think that's gonna do it for us. It was a fun show. Andrew, thank you as always for coming on. Obviously, Andrew will be online probably for the rest of the night. He's going to be doing the Trust the Profits overnight stream.
9 to 10 p.m. for me Pacific time, so midnight to 1 a.m. for those of you on the East Coast. Giving out some Breeders' Cup winners and smooth jazz.
There's nothing smooth about that.
I got to get the late night DJ voice going.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna start working on these this group ticket nonsense that I signed up for. Mark is gonna have to get some BCBC stuff probably planned, and Caleb is just got to be, I don't know, model-esque the rest of the night. I don't think he's got much else going on. So we will. Yeah, we'll catch you guys later. Everyone have a good one, and yeah, make sure you check Mark's videos out on YouTube. He's been doing some shorts for BCBC, so check that out. We'll catch you guys later.
Let's go! Where's the fucking line?